So welcome to part 2 of our homestead update for the winter. It's January 15th, 16th. It's Wednesday afternoon the 16th. And it's been an interesting winter. We had almost 2 feet of snow in November, which was very early and crazy. And then it kind of warmed up, it froze, and warmed up, and froze. And only about 10 days ago, everything was thawed. And Alex was riding the four-wheeler in a giant puddle. Take a look at this. So hard to believe, that was about 10 days ago, and here's what it looks like now. So right over there, you can see beyond the little chicken processing gallows is the puddle that Alex was riding in. So right now, it's about 30 degrees, I think. It's a little windy and cool, but tell you what, after 4 or 5 mornings of single digits, it feels pretty warm out today. Still wearing a hat, but it feels warm. So first update I'll give you, if you saw in the previous video, spent about a whole day building a little shelter. It basically was sort of a tunnel that connected the chicken coop door, is over here, to the door into the shelter so that I didn't have to shovel all the snow in here. Well, you can see we don't have any snow. We haven't had really any snow since November, just the inch or so that you see on the ground. We've got about 2 feet potentially coming on Sunday, so it's going to be interesting. But this was, although a good plan in theory, building this thing enabled them to hop up on top here, and then it was a short hop up on the roof of the coop. And if you take a look at this little clip, you can see that they were hanging out up there, pooping all over the roof. They were pooping all over the roof of the shelter that was here, and not only that, they were so confused at night they couldn't figure out how to get in. I couldn't close the coop door. They were all stuck inside the little tunnel thing. I was really worried about a predator getting them. So it was way more hassle than it was worth. So it took us almost a day to cut all the angles and build the thing, and took us about 15 minutes to rip it all down. So live and learn. We're gonna have to shovel next year. One of the projects for this year, for this spring, to prepare for next winter, I hope to have sort of a pole barn structure that's wide enough to bridge the opening, or bridge the whole width of this chicken coop, and we'll be able to put sides up on it and keep the snow out. But this has actually worked out really well, and if we open this, by keeping that door closed, it stays significantly warmer in here, and the wind, keeping the wind out of here, and it's been great. So, update on the rabbits. Unfortunately, we lost our buck, Oakley. He was the black and white. He was the broken buck. That's what they call the pattern, the white and black. So he was a Rex buck. We lost him suddenly just a couple weeks ago. He was fine one day, and the next day he was dead. Seems pretty common. The only thing we can come up with maybe is that he had some existing health problem we didn't know about, or he got scared of something. You know, we've had the problem of the animals coming in here at night. I'll see when I come in the morning that these feeders are dumped over. I did see a possum one night out in the field, and there was evidence of a little porcupine climbing through the electric fence, which is obviously turned off for the wintertime, but a little porcupine had come in here, so I'm not sure. Part of my solution to keep the animals away, we got this little battery-powered motion sensor light. It's a bright light, it's several hundred lumens, little floodlight. It just runs on D batteries. Got it on Amazon. It was a 2-pack for about 20 bucks, I think. And that has been working great. Since that light was installed, I think maybe it's scaring away the critters that come in here. I haven't had any issues in here. But the update on the rabbit front is we talked to the breeder, and she was looking to kind of shift gears, so we ended up picking up... That was really loud, mister. Yeah, I got your number. So here's our new buck. He is considered... I have to get with Jackson, but he's an otter. You can see how he's got that lighter color on the bottom. And his name is Forrest, and he is just over a year old, maybe a year and a half. And this is our original doe, Aspen. She's doing really well, hopefully losing a little bit of weight, and we'll have better luck with her getting pregnant this time. She did finally have a couple of babies, only 2, and they didn't make it. They didn't have a good enough nest, and we tried unsuccessfully for about an hour and a half to warm them up, and could be that due to her weight, she had a very small litter, and so we'll see. We're going to be cautious with this next time we breed them. We're going to try to get litters before winter, or before the end of winter, and have the babies grow out before summer. This is another doe that we got. This is a really pretty, you can see, I don't know if you can see, she's got blue eyes. She's called a Beverin. She's got a much different coat. She's a rare breed out of Europe. She's also pretty sizable, so we're hoping that Forrest will be able to get the job done, and we'll have some Rex Beverin crosses. And then this is Midnight, and she is a pure Rex. And she is actually the product of our buck Oakley that we lost, and a different doe. And then this one is beautiful. This is Lilac. You can see she's a really light gray, almost purplish color. And she is the daughter of R2, of Oakley and Aspen. So that's kind of neat that we've got his genes carried on in this doe and this one. So we're going to breed 2 at a time. So if there are any issues with the mothers, that we'll hopefully be able to piggyback the babies into the other litter. So this has actually worked out really well this winter. This is that shelter logic structure. Haven't had any issues with the snow that we've gotten so far. Just kind of come out here with a broom and knock the ceilings, the ceiling spans here, so that all the snow falls off. The problem with the chickens sitting on top of the cages, as you can see here, we rectified by using some zip ties and this masonite to put up here. So I'm getting some more of that, and we'll cut that to fit. This one was too short, so we're going to cut that one and then do the same thing over here, and that should solve the problems of the chickens getting up on top of the coops. I really like having all of the droppings and the urine drop through from the rabbits. I just throw some seed and scratch mix underneath here. The chickens scratch this all up. It's kind of frozen right now, but this is going to be awesome compost. We'll rake this up and take a bunch of it out in the garden. The one challenge that I've got to address today, you can see that this is unplugged. The chickens running around in here have unplugged this water, and it's still thawed, which is good. It's much warmer in here underneath the shelter than outside, so I'm going to get that plug back in. I got a longer extension cord, and I'm going to run that across. We actually had to use some zip ties, you can see on here, to hold these in there because the chickens kept unplugging it. So, exciting news on the rabbit front, and stay tuned. Hopefully in the next month and a half, you'll see a video with some baby bunnies. Multiple baby bunnies, hopefully. Other exciting news is our egg production has stepped up quite a bit. The winter egg strike is over. We've been averaging somewhere around 6 to 12 a day probably, and a lot of these newer chickens that we have, the chicks that we got, what is going on over here? A lot of these Americanas have started laying, and we've been getting some blue and blue-green eggs, which has been really cool. Still have the rooster challenge. We did process one of them, one of these big barred rocks, and I have to tell you that it was some of the best chicken we've ever had. We cooked him in the Instapot. He was probably only about 3 or 4 pound carcass weight, but the meat that came off of him was mostly dark. The flavor was unbelievable. Doing him in the Instapot was perfect, and we ended up making chicken noodle soup, which was awesome. So we still have about, I think, 9 of these barred rocks, and then see, look, this is just constant. They're kind of tag teaming. we need to cull these guys. You can see she's getting kind of worn on her back now. That just started happening in the last week. But we've got these two beautiful big Brahma roosters. Might actually be 3 of them. Those are much bigger, meatier birds. I'm thinking of keeping 2 Brahma roosters, getting rid of 9 of these guys, and getting rid of 2 of these Americanas. I've got somebody who will take one of those, and there's not much meat on them, so I hate to waste a purebred Americana rooster in a crock pot when we've got so much. But let's see what we get for eggs today. Another challenge I have, any of you guys that have egg layers, is that every time I put new straw in these nesting boxes, they get in here and they kick and scratch it all out. What do we got in here? What are you doing? Here's one of our really pretty kind of olive eggs. There's 2, 5, 7. Look at this one. They've scratched all the straw out of there, and then the eggs end up getting broken. All right, so it looks like 7 eggs today. I'm gonna have to come back out and grab those, but there's 7 of them. Looks like possibly a couple got broken, which wouldn't surprise me when there's no padding in the nesting boxes because they've scratched it all out. They climb in and out of there and they end up breaking an egg, and then they eat it, and then all the other eggs that are in there get all nasty. And we gotta spend time washing them. The quail are still doing great. I don't know if you can see, she's running in there. Where is she? Nope, she hopped in the coop. They figured out that their best way to survive was to coop up with the chickens every night. So the pair of them head in there every night. I can peek in at night and they're nestled right in there with the chickens. So that's pretty funny. Would like to try to catch them this spring so we could start collecting some of the eggs from her, because obviously we won't find them if she's just out laying them wherever she happens to be. All right, guys, get back. Always a challenge getting in here with these guys. A little too early to feed them, so I figured I'd just bring them some alfalfa pellets. And this is just crazy goat behavior, but when you come in like this, they don't know to like run ahead of you, and they just stop and you trip over them, and pretty funny. All right, crazies. So I figured I'd just bring them some alfalfa pellets since I was coming to see them. These guys are all doing great. No health issues. Everybody seems fine. Just keep their hay feeder filled. They've got their heated water. And then look what they did here. So I basically threw some plywood up just to block the wind in this section where they've been sleeping. And bought these big bales of straw, and I can't even tell what they did here. Well, somehow they managed to. I'm gonna have to come back out and fix this. The idea was, with these single-digit mornings, I created a little nest here for them, but they managed to wreck this bale of straw, so I'm gonna have to fix that tonight, see if I can retie it or something. And we've got their little mineral feeder over there, and they've actually started to use that, so I put about 4 ounces in there every other day or so. And with the deep bedding in here, plenty of straw and shavings, these guys have been fine. This definitely adds quite a bit of extra warmth. I just need to fix that now. And then the sheep, no issues with the sheep. Since we moved the boys up, it's definitely been much easier to take care of them. Everybody's here getting some lunch. And here's my boy Pokey. Anytime he sees us, he comes over here to get some lovin'. And the good news is the bumps on his nose the hair has all grown back in. Not really sure what that was. You can see Willow right there. Let's see if we can get a zoom in on her. Her nose is pretty much healed, and the hair has grown back. And Atlas still has some on his nose, but I think he's just constantly rubbing his head on everything, so that doesn't really surprise me. But here's Willow. She always comes over here, puts her head through to see the goats. And here's Pokey. Pokey will stand here for hours and just let you give him scratches. Loves it. More like a dog than a sheep. The babies are doing well. It's Clarice and Misty. Here's Baby Bit, getting some water. You thirsty? They drink over 5 gallons a day, so having these heated buckets has just been key to being able to keep their water available. Very easy to just grab a bucket out of that stock tank. The stock tank is actually about 170 gallons. I thought it was bigger. I thought it was like a 240. Here's Juliet coming to see me. Hi. And so I bought 2 just in case we needed it. I only ended up using 1. It's a 1500 watt heater, and we haven't had any issues at all. We have seen an increase in the electric bill. Obviously, we're running 2 heated buckets and now 5 heated water bottles for the rabbits. We're running that heated chicken base, chicken water base, and then the stock tank heater. I think the electric bill for December was about $120. Probably about double, so maybe about 60 bucks a month to run all those heaters, so that's really not too bad. What else I got for you for winter and homestead updates? I got one more thing I can show you. All right, so I wanted to give you a shot of our hillside that we've been working on. We didn't get as far as I had planned. We were still doing this in November up until the snow fell, and we still have quite a bit left to do, but give you a shot looking back this way. I just climb back up the hill a little bit here, give you a sense of where I am. You can see the sheep and the goats on the other side of the wall. Back over there, there's the chicken shelter and the garage, and the cabin's back in there, and there's our shed we built last year. But so as we come over on this side of the wall, this hillside we cleared. It's part of our homestead clear cut. We planted 650, planted and potted 650 trees. We now need to get the tree tubes on, and you can see, kind of looking down there, sort of one of our wildlife food plot areas. And then those white tubes at the bottom of the hill are all Chinese chestnut trees. There's 25 of those. And then as we come on up this way, any place that you see a stake, or up close here you can see these little pink ribbons, those denote the trees that we planted. They're all oaks and hickories and walnuts, and every other tree is a black locust. And then we've got a little row of black locusts here. You can see this one here took off gangbusters. So every other tree on this hillside is a black locust. It's a nurse tree, it's a nitrogen fixer, it's going to help all the other trees around it, and also produces more honey than just about any other flowering plant. And it's super dense firewood, so in about 10 years or so, there's going to be a decent amount of firewood that we can harvest off the hill. It's got more BTUs than even oak or any of those other hardwoods that you typically burn, and it grows much faster. So what we did is put these tree tubes on here. I got these from Tree Pro, and these are 6-foot wooden stakes and then a 6-foot tube. These really cool zip ties that are removable. And so we've enclosed these saplings. They sort of act like little greenhouses, and we need to finish getting all the rest of these tubes in, and probably buy some more to go around the hillside to protect all the rest of the trees. And this is going to protect them from deer, and it's also going to allow us to graze our goats and sheep over here. Interesting to see if the goats bother these tubes, but in theory, it's going to allow us to browse these hillsides and keep the native brush from coming back, and provide a good environment for these trees to grow. Also, having them in that sort of mini greenhouse allows them to grow much faster as well. So that's on tap for the spring. I'll do another video sometime soon about our plans and our planned projects for the fall. The other big news. Take a look at this. Yes, we are getting a livestock guardian dog puppy. His dad is a Karakachan, it's a Bulgarian Shepherd, and his mom is an Anatolian Great Pyrenees mix. He's about 3 or 4 weeks old right now. We're gonna get him somewhere around 10 weeks. Somebody local right here in our town. And he is gonna be a full-time livestock guardian dog living out with our goats and our sheep. And I'll tell you, for us, for our family, that's gonna be a big adjustment because we've always treated our dogs practically like kids, with them in the house, and they sleep on the kids' beds, and you know, that creates some challenges, but they are basically house dogs and they get good exercise outside. But so this one is going to live outside, and I've been watching a lot of videos and reading as much as I can about training them. So expect to see quite a bit of video with the puppy, training the puppy, our puppy adventures. So we're going to get the vet out here next month to check everybody out, make sure everybody's okay. Heading into lambing season, we're hoping that nobody has babies in March, because that would mean that little feller tagged them, and then those would be destined just for meat. So he had horns. I think if you've watched my previous videos, you know about that. So we're hoping for about 10 baby lambs in May, and hope you guys, 2019 is off to a great start, and we'll see you in the next video.